Kelowna, one of the most beautiful places in the world to live, surrounded by provincial parks, pine forests, vineyards, orchards, and mountains. Wouldn't it be great if there was a podcast about our love of Kelowna? Oh no, it's real. This is I Love Kelowna, an interview-style podcast about the fabulous and fascinating people that make up our great city and the Okanagan. Intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, creatives, and anyone who has an interesting story to tell about how they're contributing to our wonderful home. This is I Love Kelowna, and here's your host, Luke J. Minkus.
So I'm here today with Shawn Channell, and he lives just south of Seattle. Shawn is a salesman like me, and he's got an interesting story. He says that for the first 8 years in sales, he sucked, and it took him a long time to figure out what didn't work, and eventually led him to a strategic formula that did work. And he had to learn step by step, basically the hard way. And now he's able to teach that process to thousands of other salespeople who struggle. So I've had a long sales career, and I had bad habits, and I did things for years, and I couldn't figure out why. And the breakthroughs for me sometimes were few and far between, and they took years. So I really love talking to people like Shawn, who have gone through a similar process and have figured some things out. So Shawn, tell us maybe first how you got into sales. Was that something you did as a kid, or was it something you did as an adult, become a salesperson?
Well, I guess that depends on how you define adult.
Right.
I first got into sales at 19.
Mm-hmm.
I was in community college, not really, feeling the vibe of college.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to drop out. And I'd always dreamed of getting in business.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in a small town on the coast, not a lot of opportunity. Most of the community was either in fishing or logging. And so as a 19-year-old dropout, my options were pretty limited.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to get into real estate. Okay. And so at 19, I got my real estate license. I was actually at that time the youngest realtor in the state of Washington.
The youngest?
The youngest, yeah, at that point.
Did they tell you, or you just figured it out?
No, they actually told me when I got my license. You have to take the test, and you get licensed to the state. And they happened to tell me that at that point in time, I was the youngest person to hold a real estate license.
Wow.
That, however, does not make you a good salesperson.
Right.
So I sucked it up for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I sold a couple houses, mostly through some name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't anything to do with sales skills. I was 19. I didn't know anything about owning a home, buying a home, maintaining a home, having a family.
Right.
So there was no ability for me to relate to the client base that I was working with.
Mm. So what happened next? Did you keep selling real estate? Did you have any problems?
So the market tanked.
What year is this now?
This was mid-90s.
Mid-90s, okay.
And so the logging industry down there was faced with a lot of restrictions. Same with the fishing industry. I think people were starting to realize that we were overutilizing some of our natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried my hand at car sales.
Okay.
And that was probably even a worse fail than the real estate.
Really?
Yeah, I was working for a couple of old school car salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, the pushy, aggressive, someone came on the lot, you had to sell them. And I didn't have the confidence, the skill set, anything in my repertoire to be able to make that effective.
Mm-hmm.
So they stuck me on the low end used car lot. And we're talking like cars that are $1,000, $1,500.
Yeah.
Where, those people aren't really, don't need to be sold. They just need a car.
Yeah.
And, consequently, I was one of those people at that point. So I had a lot to relate to from that aspect. But the challenge with that is, it's mostly young people who've had credit issues or challenges. And so getting the financing and all that type of stuff is not easy. So you get a lot of people that come on the lot, but you don't convert a lot of that into sales.
Right.
So eventually, after repeated failures of the car sales kind, I let my dad talk me going back into college.
Right. So you did.
I did.
What did you
got my
take?
degree in economics.
Okay.
Which is a far cry from sales.
Right. Was there any advantage to studying economics? I mean, at least, numbers. Or it's completely irrelevant.
From a life perspective, economics is a wonderful thing. In fact, I think more people should probably take it.
Mm.
It didn't necessarily help me from a sales perspective. The 4 years in college made a little bit of a difference, mostly just from a maturity standpoint.
Mm. Maturity, so like good habits and discipline and
just some life skills in general, life experience, having gained some confidence in myself, maturing overall. Because I didn't actually go to college till I was 21, so by the time I graduated, I was 25.
Mm.
And so you have gone through that, that early 20s where you're trying to find yourself and all those things. So those things helped.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So what was the big breakthrough for you? What caused you to start to become better at sales? Was it just trial and error or lots of mistakes?
Lots of mistakes, for sure.
Maybe
interesting enough.
I'm sure you have a couple of great stories about some disasters that you had.
Oh, yeah. I think every journey, every sales job I had some sort of funny failure.
Mm.
The funny thing is I went back into car sales immediately after graduating.
Mm.
So I'd failed and then for some reason thought, why not spend 4 years in college and then go back into what you sucked at?
Right.
Part of that was it was in the same town that I went to college at. And so I was able to live the college lifestyle with a little bit of money in my pocket. Mm. And it was a much different environment. It was a family-owned dealership like before,
mm-hmm.
but a small town that relied on repeat business.
Right.
So it was that churn. They treated their customers really well. And so I was able to learn the relationship aspects of sales without getting, a whole lot of traction on some of the other aspects of sales.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you even did some door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
What were you selling? What were you selling there?
It was promotional advertising packages. So it was very similar to Groupon before there was Groupon. And so we did it for day spas and sports teams, restaurants. And you just literally went from house to house 8 hours a day and tried to convince them to give you between $20 and $70.
And how did that go?
Oh, God.
Was that like the worst out of the three?
Yeah, for sure. It's had some of the best benefits, but it was definitely the most probably traumatizing.
Right. Did you get a lot of doors slammed? And
oh, yeah. You get all aspects of rejection. So the door slams were one of the easier ones. Some people, they'll peek through their peek hole or, the side window. But you also get people that pull guns.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Really?
People that, yeah. I mean, we did every neighborhood in Washington State, the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
And, crazy people live somewhere.
Right.
So you knock on their door and you experience what maybe other people wouldn't experience when those people are out in public.
Right. A bit different than a car lot, right? I mean, people aren't usually going to pull a gun on you on the car lot. They're coming there to look for a car.
Yeah. And, you're in a shirt and tie, a full suit. Mm-hmm. So people don't know if you're the cops, if you're from some religious organization. They just see a stranger on their doorstep.
Right.
And they have various reactions.
Crazy.
We got the cops called on us. People would sick their dogs on you. They'd follow you down the street swearing at you. You got some interesting levels of rejection.
Right. And I don't imagine you were being like pushy with these people, right? If they weren't interested, you would leave, right?
Correct. The one of the things I learned from that was we were very focused on playing the numbers or the law of averages.
Right.
So the goal was to talk to 100 people a day, and you knew that 90 of them would tell you no. And so the mindset of that was pretty powerful because in all the other sales jobs I'd had before, if you got rejected, that was failing. It was a negative. It was, you were looked down on, you sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mindset around this was, as long as you can maintain your attitude for the 90 no's, you'll get to the 10 yeses. Mm-hmm. And so it was a game changer for me to go, oh, people are supposed to tell me no? I'm not supposed to sell everybody? As long as I play the numbers, people will say yes. And in addition to learning how to take rejection pretty quickly, because we're talking 2.5 years I did this.
Right. So
you do the math, 6 days a week, 90 no's a day, 2.5 years. It's about 65,000 people that told me no in a little tiny bit of span. You get good at the rejection.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, I don't know if I could ever get used to having a gun pulled on me, but you do get used to rejection, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's not fun, certainly. But you learn how to react, right? That's part of, I think, the lessons that I learned from a sales perspective, and certainly from a leadership perspective as I moved into more of a management role and a coach role, is how do you talk someone down off the ledge? Because when you got a gun in your face, you got to talk someone off the ledge.
Right.
And, I didn't think at the time, okay, this is going to be similar to talking someone off who wants to quit or give up, but you got to figure out how to lower the tension and de-escalate the situation pretty quickly. And so those lessons ended up helping me as my career went on.
Right. That's something. So tell us about your strategies. You've developed a strategy, you teach it to others now. So what do you tell a new salesperson? Like, where do they have to start so they don't go through a decade of, that rejection and spinning their wheels?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different aspects. There's the mental side of sales where you have to get used to the rejection. You have to be tenacious. You've got to prepare every single day to grind and not see immediate results. A lot of what we focus on with our training and coaching programs are how to be strategic in the communication.
Mm.
So there's 3 aspects that we have to sell or talk to when working with a new client.
Right.
We have to convince them that our product or service is worthy of their investment. We have to convince them that our company, our brand is reputable, trustworthy. We stand behind our product or service. And potentially the most important one is we have to help them see the value that we bring as their partner, their individual salesperson, their account manager, any of those various titles.
Right.
And so our process walks through how to do each one of those over the course of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly focused, however, on me as the individual.
Okay. So like you as
I'm a
the
big believer
salesperson focused
Yes.
on, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a big believer that you should convince someone to buy a product or service they don't need.
Right.
If they need the product or service, it's pretty easy to help them understand that.
Mm-hmm.
If you focus part of the conversation on what their goals and or challenges are.
Right.
Every single person out there, every single business out there has a list of goals and or challenges that they're trying to overcome or get to. If you can identify those and then help them understand how your product or service solves that challenge or gets them to that goal,
right,
then the product side becomes pretty easy. What we have to uncover, and I think this is where a lot of sales people struggle,
mm-hmm.
is what is it you want from me as your account manager, account executive, salesperson?
Mm-hmm.
What is it you want from my company as the supplier of this product or service? And so we walk our students through how do you have that conversation
mm-hmm.
to understand what it is that they want from all 3 of those aspects, and then how do you match up your value to where they're trying to go?
Right. That makes sense. Makes sense. So maybe tell us a bit about your course. Like how long does it take? What does the course look like?
Yeah, so we focus really on 2 areas right now. Our strategic communication sales course is about 14 hours of training material.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually working right now on creating an online course so you can do a self-paced kind of study.
Yeah.
But we hold, monthly sessions right now where we enroll students. They'll come together and they'll go through the course over the course of 2 weeks, broken down into 2-hour segments, live training.
Yeah.
We also work with a lot of small businesses to help them launch their sales organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So put together the structure for them and help them hire the salespeople, train the salespeople, give them some structure around KPIs, CRM system, sales methodology and process, and help them build out that sales team so that they can scale that as their company grows.
I see. So what is the best way to scale? Like, it's an interesting word. People use it a lot. So I'm a realtor and I do a good amount of business, but I run out of time, right? So if I was going to scale it and build a team, like what kind of things do I need to do?
Yeah, so that's where we help, because a lot of people are in your shoes. Is I'm the business owner. I do the bulk of the selling in addition to running the business, and I reach a cap.
Right.
What oftentimes happens is someone goes out and just hires 1 or 2 assistants or salespeople, and they say, go sell.
Right.
For scaling to happen, you have to have a defined methodology, process, some structure that every person you plug into place can follow that same path, so that as you grow, you have a system to add those new salespeople.
Right.
And so that's where we help them, is whether it's with the interviewing, the hiring process, to help them understand what they should look for from a salesperson. And give them a sales methodology that they all follow. We define the sales process, meaning how often do you cold call a prospect?
Yeah.
When should you follow up? Right.
Right.
What does that next step look like? And we set those parameters so that as a leader, as an owner, as a sales manager, as a coach, everyone follows the same process, and it makes that management and that leadership perspective easier, because you're not having to figure out why John's not selling, because you can look at John's numbers and know that John only made 3 calls this week.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think
And so we
that's
set that foundation up to help that.
Right. I think that's so important, because I spend a lot of mental energy trying to figure out what to do next. Like, if there's a task, I got to pick up keys or put a lockbox on or something, and that's obvious. But when it comes to follow up and, prospecting and stuff like that, I do spend a lot of mental energy wondering, who should I call next, and how often should I call, and did I call them enough, and should I call somebody new? I waste a lot of brain cycles doing that instead of just doing, what's going to bring the results. So I think the process is
I think
really
that's
great.
one of the it's one of the things that I think I learned in the course of becoming good at sales, was I had to lay out that foundation for myself. And without laying out that foundation, I wasn't one of these naturally good salespeople that could just pick up the phone and wing it and have a great conversation. I had to go, okay, this is the conversation I have today. This is the conversation I have 3 days from now. Here's the questions I'm going to ask. Here's my responses to their objections or their questions. And I had to really map it out on a granular level and try things that didn't work and figure out what did. But because I was able to scale that process for myself, it makes it easy for me to train it to other people.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So you talk a lot about communication. So tell us the importance of communication when it comes to sales, and how much has your ability to communicate impacted your life?
Honestly, it's one of the reasons I fell in love with sales leadership. There's two aspects. If you're good at sales, you'll always have a job.
Right.
You can always find a sales job. There's always companies looking to hire salespeople. So by helping people become good at sales, I'm ensuring that they'll always be able to provide for themselves and their family.
Right.
But more importantly to me was watching the change in their personal lives. Sales is really about communicating your ideas, your thoughts, your value to someone else in a way that they understand it, recognize it, and ultimately appreciate it.
Yeah.
And part of that is recognizing what they need, what they want, what their goals are, what perspective they're coming at you from, so that you can align those two things. And if you can understand that everyone has a different perspective, and then identify, with some level of confidence where they're coming from, and then communicate in a way back that helps them understand where you're coming from and you can connect those dots, that has a ripple effect across your life. It impacts your personal relationships, your dating, your parenting skills. If you get a sales, it helps you with leadership or career advancement. It really impacts you in all aspects of your life. And so to me, that was where my passion really kind of came together with everything I learned, was watching in my own life blossom from my increased communication skills, but then helping other people feel that and experience that same thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So communication really comes from a mindset, right?
Yeah.
How much of communication would you say is determined by a person's mindset?
Oh, probably 90%.
Mm-hmm.
We pick up words and phrases from the things that we experience or the people around us. But how we use those words and comes from within.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, this year a lot, I've been working with our youngest as we're, locked down and homeschooling, and to see him learn new words and then learn how do you use them?
Mm-hmm.
Not just what they mean, but when do you use those?
Right.
And that comes mostly from the experience you have. And the experiences we have is what makes us view the world a certain way. And that comes back to your question. That's all mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. So you transitioned from being a salesperson to more of a leader and a coach. Yeah. Are you still selling, or is it mainly your courses that you're selling and your consulting?
Yeah. So I'm selling my courses all the time.
Yeah.
There's days dedicated every week to cold calling, emailing prospects, outreach via LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm constantly reaching out to new and potential clients.
Right.
That said, I spend the bulk of my time working with salespeople to help them increase their book of business, grow their skills, do all that.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of the challenges going from full-time salesperson to actually more of a leader?
Well, that's something I sucked at initially. It's different to know that you're good at something and then to teach other people how to do the same thing.
Yeah. It's two different things.
It's very much two different things. And for me, I took a lot of sales courses and did a lot of sales training early in my career. What I found is a lot of those people were just good at sales.
Right.
And so they'd say, you got to build relationships. And I'd be like, okay, that sounds great. I want to build relations. And then I get on the phone with somebody or in front of somebody and I'd be like, well, how do I build a relationship?
Right.
Meanwhile, these guys, you just talk to them. You ask them some questions. And I'm like, what questions? What do we talk about?
Right.
And so I had to figure that out, but then turning around and figuring out how to share that with somebody. The way I ask a question isn't going to be the same way that you ask a question.
Right.
And so I can give you the question I ask, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And so we have to really partner together to get you to a spot where you're comfortable in your questions. And so that involved a lot of role play and a lot of listening to conversations and providing feedback. But becoming good at that, I probably ruined a good 40, 50 salespeople my first year and a half of sales leadership.
Oh, geez. Really?
Yeah, I was working with a ton of brand new salespeople.
Right.
And I just didn't know how to get them to do what I was doing.
Right.
Now, that said, I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, well, it's thousands at this point, of salespeople and helped them. But yeah, that first group, Not so much.
Right. Yeah. So everything is a learning process, right?
It is. I don't think we get good at anything quickly. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that would disagree with that and say, well, I've always been good at sales, or I've always been good at leading people. And there's always going to be that top 10, 20% who are just naturally good at stuff.
Yeah.
But the rest of us have to make the mistakes so that we can learn from those mistakes.
Right. Yeah. I think people who say they're natural at it, they must have been surrounded by someone like a dad or an uncle, someone who was just always doing that in their presence. So they picked up because, this stuff can be complicated and it's not easy. So it's really good to learn from someone who's been through it. How are you finding it with, the COVID lockdowns and stuff like that? Are you able to conduct classes? How's that going?
It's been a huge shift. We were doing all in-person, on-site coaching and training.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had to make the shift to using Zoom, doing things in segments.
Yeah.
We would come in and do 2 days solid sales training.
Right.
Well, I can't keep people on Zoom for 2 days. So, we've had to make some adjustments into how we deliver the training. The nice aspect is we've actually been able to expand some of the offerings we've done.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was difficult to do follow-up coaching and training before without being on site. Now that we're all using tools like Zoom or Teams, we can provide additional coaching and feedback over a longer term without having to fly out there at the expense, etc. So we're able to partner with our customers more frequently and easier via the online presence.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So there are some positives. I mean, I think it's important to see people in person, whenever we can. I used to always say, like, social media is a great tool to get people in person. Like, we shouldn't use social media as the end result, like that our entire social life is on social media. We should use it to set up, events and keep in touch with people, but to really meet in person, So, I guess there's pros and cons. Like, you can definitely reach a lot more people faster, electronically. Like, we're having this interview. The odds of me driving down there, you driving up here, probably pretty slim. Probably wouldn't happen without the technology. So, but I think it's important, like, if we can meet with at least our close friends and family, we gotta have human contact, So it's a challenge.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So,
and one of the things we talk about in our training is, you don't sell via email or social media.
Right.
Those are tools to get a conversation started. In an ideal world, face to face, but now either via Zoom or a phone call. But that human interaction, we all need that.
Yeah, we do. Hopefully it's going to ease up a bit soon, but we'll see. I guess we'll have to see what happens. For sure. Well, now with the technology, do you have clients that are outside of your geographic area? Are you starting to help people that are in different cities and so on?
I am. That's been one of the benefits of this, is the ability to scale who I help.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a company based out of Colombia.
Wow.
So I'm on the phone every morning at 6 a.m. When I say phone, I mean Zoom.
Right.
And we're doing coaching calls with the sales team down in Colombia.
Wow. Now, does your team have, is it more than,
open up?
Oh, sorry, there's a bit of a delay. Is your team more than one person? Is it just you, or do you have a team?
I have a team that helps me with the other aspects of the business, with the marketing, the website. I've got a team that's helping me put together the online portal.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm doing the coaching and the training for the company.
Right. That makes sense. Very cool. Well, what if someone was interested in your programs, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, they can go to our website, which is justlaunchtraining.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can connect with me personally on LinkedIn, Shawn Channell.
Okay.
Or they can email me at shawn.channel@outlook.com.
Perfect. And I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes so people can just tap on it, reach you that way. That's great. Well, Shawn, really glad we connected. And it's been an interesting conversation. You got a really interesting story, all the things you went through. And I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, Luke, thank you for having me on the show. I've listened to some of your episodes.
Oh, cool.
And you've had some great guests. And it's cool to be part of the theme that you're doing here with the podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I tried to help people get to know the guests personally because you probably know this from sales, but we really like to do business with people that we know and like and trust. And so it's important to get to know the person, not just like what their business does, like not just reading an online brochure of all their stuff, but just, your experience of what you went through, why. Makes sense for a person who's struggling in sales to listen to you and to connect with you because of what you've been through. So that was great. So hope to connect with you soon.
We all have our own stories.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know why there's a bit of a delay. I was talking to someone in Amsterdam on the podcast last week, and it was almost instantaneous. And we are, I don't know, maybe 5-hour drive apart, and there's a delay. It's like when my dad used to go to England for business trips, and he would telephone us, and it was like really staticky. And my sister would say, "That's the ocean. That's actually the ocean." It's not the ocean, but it was like a 2-second delay, so we'd have to. But anyways, no, I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day. And I'll send you the links to the show when it's done.
Awesome, thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Shawn. Bye.
Luke Mankus is a realtor. He loves what he does. We asked Luke if he had any regrets about moving here in 2011, and he always says, yeah, one regret, and that is he didn't move here sooner. When Luke came here, he didn't know anyone. He didn't know the neighborhoods or anything or anyone besides his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. So he knows what it's like. Now, he's an expert and has helped well over 100 single people, couples, families, and investors with their real estate needs in the Okanagan. If you're new to our beautiful city, Luke can help you get connected with great lawyers, dentists, carpenters, landscapers, swimming pool installers, you name it. And whether you're new to Kelowna or not, Luke knows real estate. He can help you find a great property, negotiate a good deal, and hold your hand all the way through the process until the day you get your shiny new set of keys. Luke is known as a no-pressure kind of guy. He's had clients where it took even a year or more to get them into a property. He just doesn't believe in rushing things. On the other hand, when you decide it's time to act, he's diligent, and he'll work day and night until the job is done. Give Luke Mankus a call or a text message at any time, 778-215-4273. Again, that's 778-215-4273. 778-215-4273 to chat with Luke about real estate.